She said it was book club. The hotel key in my coffee mug said otherwise. I fix old things for a living. Turntables, reel-to-reels, amps with tubes that glow like coals at midnight. People bring me their memories in cardboard boxes, and I coax the sound back out. It is patient work, the kind that rewards listening more than talking. You learn a lot about rhythm and trust when you're trying to make a needle ride a groove that looks like an indecipherable river and translate it into a voice. My wife Tessa works with the new and the shiny. She's a brand strategist. Campaigns, activations, pop-ups with neon slogans you can see from space. If my days smell like dust and orange oil, her smell like grapefruit soda and a designer's idea of ambition. For years that contrast was our charm. I'd come home streaked with graphite and triumph because someone's father could hear Sinatra again. She'd drop onto the couch in a blazer too sharp to sit and read me the pitch she had sold with a half smile and a carnivore's relief. Lately, book club had entered our vocabulary, and I didn't hate it until I did. Twice a month she'd slide on a silk blouse that pretended to be accidental and toss over her shoulder. Book club at Mina's. Don't wait up. I've known Mina since her bangs were a personality trait, so I didn't question. Besides, I liked imagining Tessa arguing about plot with a glass of red wine and a finger tucked absently under the page like a promise she meant to keep. The key card appeared on a Thursday morning, as if a magician had chosen the one trick he knew would set the room on fire. It was half submerged in my favorite mug, the navy one with the chip on the handle. White typography ran across the plastic in a font designed to soothe expensive nerves. Halcyon Hotel. On the back, in the spot where most places engrave "If found, please return," someone had written in clean block letters, 917. Underneath it, a small, almost affectionate dash. Gel. My first thought was not noble. It was a hot, stupid throb under the ribs that somehow involved smashing the mug and calling my brother and never, ever speaking again. But then the other part of me, the part that can ease a warped platter with a damp cloth and time, tugged the panic down. I took the card out and dried it on a tea towel. I put the mug in the sink. I looked at our kitchen like it might confess if I held still long enough. Tessa came in with her hair in a swift, aggressive ponytail and kissed me, light and familiar like she always did. She smelled faintly of lime and juniper. "Mina says hi," she said, opening the fridge like there had always been food inside. Book club ran late. There are phrases you can't unhear once you're holding evidence. Book club tolled like a bell. "What you read?" I asked, because it felt like the sort of question a husband asks when the world is fine. She reached for yogurt, didn't meet my eyes. "We're doing essays. You'd hate it." "Probably," I smiled. It felt like a trick my face performed without me. She had never liked yogurt. She loved buttery things, things that flaked when she breathed on them. "What's that perfume?" She paused, not quite long enough. "New sample from a client, do you like it?" "It's decisive." She laughed and kissed my cheek again. Her mouth lingered a fraction too long, like she was trying to correct something. "You're ridiculous," she said, and it was affectionate and it didn't help. After she left for work, I turned the key card in my fingers until the room stopped spinning. I told myself a dozen explanations and rejected them with a mechanic's precision. Halcyon Hotel was 6 blocks from my shop. It kept a rotating menagerie of brand events and discreet liaisons behind its smoked glass. The 917 could have been anything. A mistake, a joke, a dare. But there was the dash, there was the L. I'm not an investigator. I'm a man who knows the difference between a hum that means alive and a buzz that means trouble. Still, I went looking. The apartment gave me nothing. Tessa's tote bag contained a notebook, a lipstick the color of improbable cherries, and a cosmetic pouch I had bought her last Christmas because she said the one she wanted was sold out everywhere, which turned out to mean I should have tried harder. There was a crumpled receipt from a bar called Juniper and Coal. The timestamp said 12:17 a.m. That afternoon, I took my lunch break at Juniper and Coal, a bar that looked like a handshake between a library and a nightclub. The bartender wore suspenders and gentle pity. I ordered club soda and scanned the room for evidence that would be kind to me. I found none. I did, however, see a framed photo on the wall of a launch party for a craft gin. Standing in the center, looking exactly like himself, was a man with a smile that understood cameras. Sandy hair, 2-day stubble, a linen shirt with the sleeves rolled because the night demanded forearms. The small brass plate beneath the photo read, Leonhauser, founder, Lark Gin. Yell. When I slid the photo of the photo into my pocket, I knew exactly how corny I looked. I also knew that I wasn't going to survive the afternoon if I didn't have a plan that wasn't just staring at my phone like it owed me something. At 5:45, I locked the shop and walked to Halcyon on legs that belonged to someone with worse ideas than me. The lobby was a low murmur of expensive quiet. I rode the elevator to the 9th floor, stood in a hallway that smelled like eucalyptus secrets, and stared at the door to 917. The key card was a weight and a dare in my palm. Inside, the room was dim and well-designed to make everyone look like better versions of themselves. Gray curtains, a bed with a duvet that pretended to be a cloud, a small table by the window with a room service menu that used the word crudo twice. I didn't touch anything. I set my phone on the table, opened the voice memo app without pressing record, and laughed at myself. This wasn't a sting operation. It was a husband having the worst Thursday. I left a note on the table that said, "We need truth, not theater." Then I stood in the hallway and waited, arms crossed, back against the wall, like I was guarding a vault instead of a room that contained only a clean bed and all my courage. She turned the corner at 7:10 early, as if she had promised someone she wouldn't be late. Tessa stopped dead when she saw me. For a second her face went white, then blotched, then did a small, rehearsed smile that saw it wouldn't work and retreated. She looked at the key card in my hand and then at my face. Her mouth opened and closed twice. "Book club?" I asked. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were hers, the ones that told me to pick the green tile for our kitchen and to stop apologizing for being gentle. "Miles," she said. My name did a kind of work it hadn't had to do for a while. "Can we go inside?" Did. The room drew its curtains like a polite ghost. She sat in the chair by the window, smoothed her skirt the way she does when she's about to pitch something, and then didn't pitch anything. "I should have told you I took a meeting with Leon," she said, and there was the relief of hearing the truth said aloud, even if it didn't improve the air. "It started as work. He's a client. Larkgin hired us for a spring campaign. She lifted a shoulder. "He's charming like a song you didn't ask to hear again." "Did you ask to hear it again?" My voice didn't crack. It felt like an achievement. She swallowed, once, twice. She looked at her hands. "We kissed last week, outside the bar. It was stupid and fast and felt like I was trying on someone else's coat in a mirror." "Book club," I said, "because there are echoes." "I know." She looked up, and there was the thing that made me fall in love with her, the fearless way she holds a gaze when she's done being afraid. "I lied about that. I'm sorry. I wanted to see if I was someone who might. And then I wanted to stop wanting. So I told him to meet me here so I could end it without playing the coward. I didn't want to run. I also didn't want to make you my judge in our kitchen. There are speeches your heart has drafted that your brain hopes it never has to read aloud." Mine said, Thank you for not sleeping with him yet. Thank you for telling me now and not after. Another part of me, the one with hands that rarely shake, stood up and asked for something steadier than gratitude. Is he coming? I asked. She nodded, small and miserable. In 10 minutes. I was going to tell him no. I'll tell him with you here. The last sentence sat between us like a knife laid gently on a table. I went to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and looked at my reflection, a man with a soft jaw and calloused fingers, and a capacity for patience that had made him proud until tonight. I thought of the machines I coaxed back to life, the way they protested until the moment they didn't. I thought of the first time Tessa had stood in my shop and laughed at a stack of Herb Alpert LPs like she was auditioning to be my mistake. Then I went back into the room and moved the second chair closer to hers. Leon knocked like he owned the idea of knocking. When I opened the door, surprise skittered across his face and tried not to look like retreat. He recovered quickly, because recovery is the first language of men like him. You must be Miles, he said, and extended a hand that I did not take. Tessa's husband, I said, and stepped aside so he could see that I had the home advantage. He looked between us, calculation fatting toward caution. I'll keep this simple, he said, straightening his linen sleeve. Tessa is incredible. If she wants to keep things professional, I'll respect that. If she wants more. He made a careful little gesture with his thumb and forefinger, the universal sign for we're adults here. That's between you two and then between me and her. You're leaving out the part where I lied to my husband, Tessa said, her voice low and precise. And the part where I came here to say no. I should have said it earlier. I'm saying it now. Leon's mouth did a sympathetic thing that wasn't sympathy. I understand, he said, to no one in particular. But chemistry doesn't always ask permission. Chemistry works on formulas, I said. Consent does the asking. We stood there long enough to realize the conversation had ended and wasn't going to improve if we rehearsed it again. He tried a final angle that assumed charm could hover in the air until inhaled. If you change your mind, he told Tessa, you have my number. I deleted it, she said, and I'm blocking you after this. She looked at me, not him. I'm choosing my home. Leon's eyes softened with something like disappointment or respect or the inability to win. He left with a nod that blessed no one. The door clicked behind him, louder than it had any right to. We didn't celebrate, not immediately. We sat in those two chairs like survivors of something both smaller and bigger than war. Tessa reached for my hand. It was ordinary and enormous. I don't expect you to forgive me tonight, she said. I want to be the person who makes breakfast with you and fights about curtains and steals your shirts. I want to be the woman who comes home with pages marked and jokes about Mina's wine. I want to earn the right to say book club without you flinching. I didn't flinch. I also didn't pretend it didn't hurt. I'm angry, I said, and I'm not leaving. She exhaled a sound that trembled between relief and grief. She slid to the edge of her chair, and so did I when our knees touched. I felt something align, like a platter finally settling on a spindle. I moved closer, careful as an apology. We kissed, not like a goodbye or a fireworks finale, but like a door opening back onto a room we had forgotten to visit. The room had our names on it. It had the scent of lime and juniper, and also the weight of something older and better. The clean cotton of the shirt she had stolen from my drawer, the citrus of the hand soap we both claimed not to like. When we parted, her forehead rested against mine, and we breathed at the same stubborn rhythm. I could write the rest of that night like a montage if I wanted to sell something. But intimacy survives because some of it happens off camera. I'll say this, we went home. We turned off half the lights and left the kitchen on. We talked until the words loosened, then we didn't talk. We touched in a way YouTube would allow, suggestively with edits and fade-outs, and the important parts happened between those edits. She held my shirt, and I held the small, brave part of her that had walked into that hotel room ready to end something. When the curtain in your mind falls, it isn't censorship. It's consent to keep what matters. In the morning, she brewed coffee before I could pretend I wasn't watching her. A bruise of sleeplessness colored the skin beneath her eye, and I loved her with a fierce domestic hunger that had nothing to do with punishment and everything to do with return. She handed me a mug, not the navy one, that one I had glued back together, a crack running down like a scar, and said, "Mina says hi." Then she rolled her eyes at herself and added, "From actual book club. She wants you to come next time and be the dissenting voice that saves us." I took the mug. "I'll bring dessert and skepticism." We made rules, because people like us need scaffolding when the house has swayed. No book club without a photo of a book. No late-night client drinks without a text and a location. Transparency became less a punishment and more a pantry we both had the key to. She blocked Leon in front of me, pressed delete on the thread she'd reread when she wanted to feel like a sparkler. We didn't punish each other with virtue. We built small rituals that turned into reassurance. On Wednesdays, she comes to the shop and sits on the counter while I resolder a loose connection. She watches with the focus she used to save for decks and budgets, and sometimes she slides her hand into the back pocket of my jeans and leaves it there like a signature. On Saturdays, I go to her launch events and stand in the back with a paper cup and the proud stance of a man who knows what it took not to ruin something unavailable to returns. Weeks later, I was fixing a 1978 Technics for a kid who had found it in his grandfather's shed when the door chimed, and a bouquet edged into the room like it didn't want to be accused of anything. Tessa followed it, cheeks flushed from the cold. "They were handing these out by the station," she said, setting the flowers on the workbench between a coil of solder and a wishbone we keep for no good reason. She didn't apologize for the interruption. She kissed me instead, light and familiar, the way she did when we were right. Then she kissed me again, slow and deliberate, the way you do when you want to say "I'm still here" without using words. That night she slid a hardcover into my hands. "For book club," she said, and the words didn't ring like a bell anymore. They sounded like a doorbell at a house that belonged to us. The cover was a collection of short stories. Inside, halfway down the contents page, she tucked a small square of card, Halcyon Hotel. In silver pen on the back she'd written, "Room 917, not ours. Our address is better. T." I put the card back in the book and the book back on the shelf. Some relics you don't keep to reopen wounds. You keep them to mark the place where the story changed tense from was to is. When I locked the shop and walked home with her hand in mine, I didn't think about Leon or hotels or the sound keys make when you return them. I thought about the first record we ever played in our apartment. Bill Withers telling us it's going to be a lovely day, and the way we laughed at the audacity of trusting a song. People bring me broken players and ask if the music inside is gone for good. I tell them the truth. The groove is still there. You just have to give the needle something honest to follow.